In this tutorial, I will introduce you to the Maya interface. So if this is the first time that you open Maya, then fear not. It might seem a little bit intimidating at first glance. However, I will go ahead and now guide you through the most important parts of Maya that I will be working with the most. So Maya actually have done a pretty good job in organizing the tools and options into separate categories so that it can simplify the way you work inside Maya and improve your performance. Okay, so let's say for example that you want to use Maya just for modeling. So Maya gives you this drop down menu here that you can go ahead and switch to many different options. The modeling is the first one, and so when you choose modeling, Maya will go ahead and change this toolbar or menu bar here to reflect the modeling options. Let me go ahead and change that, for example, to the rigging option, and as you can see here, it has changed to reflect and to give you the options necessary and dedicated for the rigging workflow. However, some of these items here are going to be common across all of the menus. For example, the windows, display, modify, select, create, edit, and file are common across all the menus here. And so what changes is just these ones here. So for example, if you want the animation option, you're gonna get the animation tools and options dedicated for that. Also, Maya have gone ahead and organized these menus or these options and tools here as well. You can see we have the curved surface. So this is a shelf dedicated for the curves and surface. You will find here all the 2D and 3D NURBS surfaces, lines and shapes. If you want the polygons, you can go ahead and switch to this one here. If you want the sculpting tools, you can find that here as well. If you want the rigging tools, here are there. Also the animation, rendering, effects, and the X-Gen here if you want to add hair to your characters, and so much more. So Maya have done a pretty good job at organizing the tools into shelves dedicated for every workflow that you do inside Maya. Alright, great. Here at the left you will find some tools here. This is the toolbar. We have the select tool here to select an object. Let me for example go ahead and first switch to the polygons shelf here and click on the polygon cube, and this will create a polygon. We also have the option to go to the create, and from here we can also select the polygon primitives and also check or select the cube, and Maya will go ahead and create a cube at the origin of the space for us. So the select tool here, by using the select tool you can select an object. Let me go ahead and add another sphere here and move that here to the side. The way we move objects inside Maya is by using this icon here. This is the move tool, or you can press the W key. When you have an object selected, you can press the W key and you will get this gizmo here, or this move manipulator that you can use to start moving your objects around in Maya. Okay, you have also the rotate tool. If you press the E key or if you click on this icon here, you get this different gizmo. This is the rotation gizmo, which you can use to start rotating your objects around. And also you can use the R key. The R key will let you use the scale tool. This is the scale icon tool, and by using that you can start scaling and resizing your objects however you like. Okay, so these are the most important tools that you will be working with the most in Maya. We have the move tool, the rotate tool, and the scale tool. Okay, so if you want to just select your object without using any transformation tool, you can hit the Q key or use this select tool here, and you will able to select your object. This is the lasso tool. This will give you the option to draw a lasso around your object, and to select that, this will be very handy in case where you have certain vertices that you want to select. For example, let me go ahead and show you. Now this is the object mode of an object. If you want to go ahead and start adjusting and editing the components of your object, you can either hit the F8 on your keyboard or right mouse click, and here you can select the options or the components that you want. Let's say, for example, we want to grab the vertices of this object here, and if I now select a vertex, and if we use the move tool, we can start moving this around and editing our mesh however we want. Okay, and by now using this lasso tool here, we can draw a lasso and select just these points here. So you can see that the lasso tool can be very handy in certain situations where we want to grab certain vertices in a certain places, for example. And we also have this paint select tool. This is a great options which give you a brush that you can use to start painting, and once you start painting, you are now also selecting by painting. Okay, so I hope you get the idea. So when you start painting this object or these vertices, you are in fact selecting those, okay, by painting them. So you get this brush here to select your object components. If you want to adjust the radius of this brush, you can hit the B key, hold down the B key and left mouse button, and you can see we are now able to resize the radius of our brush. We are now able to grab a more range of vertices. Alright, super cool. If you want to get out of the component mode and go back to the object mode, you can either hit again the F8 or right mouse button and choose the object mode. Okay, great. The icons we have here, these are the layout options. So for example, this is one window here, this is the one selected. If we now select the next one, you can see that Maya will give us this 4 panels layout. We have here the top view, we have the front view here, and here we have the side view. So these are different views of the objects you have here in your scene. Okay, if you want to go back to the just one panel, you can go ahead and use this icon here, or you can also go ahead and use a shortcut for that, which is the spacebar and left mouse button. So hold the spacebar and then you can choose here whichever window or view you want. For example, we can switch to the front view. You can see now we are in the front view, or you can go to the top view. For example, this is the top view, or you can hold the spacebar and left mouse button, and let's go back to the perspective view. Alright, super cool. This here is called the grid. This is the grid in Maya, which you can use to draw or position precisely your objects on. You can go ahead and toggle this on and off by using this icon here. This is the grid visibility icon. Okay, so you have that option as well. And now here at the right side here, you have the channel box. So the channel box is very important in Maya, where it will give you any nodes linked to your object. For example, when we have created the sphere here, Maya have gone ahead and give us this polysphere node. This is the node used by Maya, and you can use it also to adjust the objects that you create initially. For example, we can change this radius parameter here by middle mouse and dragging. You can use the control when middle mouse dragging to adjust the values slowly. Okay, and we have the subdivision X, which you can use to readjust the subdivisions across the height and width. You can see now we're able to modify the sphere here. So the channel box, as you can see, is very important. It lists every node objects that Maya uses to construct an object. However, the most important node here is going to be this transformation node. In fact, this will give you the possibility to transform your objects. So if you remember, when we start moving our objects around, take a look at these fields here, or these channel. So these reflect the position and any transformations we do on our objects. So if you rotate, if we scale, you can see that these are reflected here on the right side. And so this is very important here to see, because I will now show you that you can use this here to start animating, for example. So this here lists the information and transformation of your objects, and you can use this as well to animate. So now we are gonna go to the animation phase. Congratulations, this is gonna be the first animation that you do. To be able to animate your objects inside Maya, you can go ahead and either set keyframes. So let me show you how to do that. For example, let's say that you want to set keyframes on the translate fields here. So the way to do that is by hitting the Shift W, and Maya will go ahead and set keyframes on the translate channels. You can see those turned red, which means that these are keyframes, and keyframes are what allow Maya to save or to interpolate between two positions. So if we, for example, now go ahead and slide with the left mouse button here on the timeline, this is where we put keyframes. If we now slide to the frame 10 here, in fact, you can zoom in or out on the time range here to see more frames or less. Let's, for example, zoom in a bit. So something like this. We are now on frame 10. However, let me show you this icon here. This is the auto keyframe toggle. If you have this on and start now moving this sphere here, Maya will go ahead and set the other keyframes automatically. You can see this frame here, we have a red tick here indicating that there are a keyframe here. Now if we start sliding with the left mouse button, here's your first animation. Congratulations. So this is how animation basically works. It's an interpolation between two keyframes, and Maya do the hard work automatically. It sets in between keyframes between the two main keyframes that you set, and Maya will go ahead and interpolate between those to give you this animation here. So we can slide now to the frame 16, and for example, take this here. We can start now playing around. So something like this, and as you can see now, this is how animation basically works. Very awesome stuff. Okay, so this is how animation work. If you want to set rotation keyframes, you can hit the Shift E, and this will give you a rotation keyframes. You can start now, if you start rotating your objects, Maya will save these position or these rotation keyframes now, and as you can see now we're able to rotate or animate the rotation. And the same thing goes for the scale. If we hit the Shift R and move and start scaling our objects down, Maya will remember that, and as you can see, this is how animation works. Super cool. So that's all there is to it for animation in Maya. The area here is gonna show you operations done by Maya, and any errors will be shown here as well. And here on the left, this area here is the mail command line. This is where you can put some mail. This is a programming tool actually that you can use the mail language. This is the Maya embedded language. This is a language used by Maya to start programming and coding certain functions here in Maya. This is a little bit more advanced, and as you get more familiar with Maya, you will get to understand and start using mail commands. Okay, so another thing I wanted to show you, and that is this show here. This is a pretty tricky one actually, because in many cases where you actually go ahead and create, let me show you. For example, let me turn off the polygons. You can see that the polygon objects have disappeared. They are not actually disappeared, they are just hidden. This is a show menu, and if you are not careful, you may go ahead and start adding some objects. You can see we are adding polygon objects, however these are not visible. But if we start to add, for example, some NURBS surfaces, these are in fact other type of 3D objects. Okay, these are visible. But why? Because simply the polygons is turned off and they are hidden. If we now go ahead and bring them back by clicking or checking the polygons, you can see the new objects we have added. They are visible. And if we just want to hide now this NURBS sphere, we can do just that. From here we can uncheck NURBS surface, and here you can see that that has been hidden. Okay, so you have to be very careful here. So always make sure the objects that you create are visible. Okay, so that's gonna be pretty much it for this quick introduction to Maya's interface. As you can see, Maya is a pretty awesome software. It is very rich and you can do anything you want with Maya. You can model, you can create some VFX, you can rig, you can animate, you can do pretty much anything. And so you have to first spend a little bit of time to get yourself more familiar with the tools and the panels and also the menus. And once you start getting more familiar, you can then go ahead and move on to more advanced topics. Also, I wanted to show you something here that is very important. To be able to rotate around the 3D viewport, you can hold down the Alt and the left mouse button. So the Alt and left mouse button will allow you to rotate the camera around your objects in your scene. If you want to zoom in and out, you can hold again the Alt key and the right mouse button this time. You are now able to zoom in and out on your objects, and the Alt and the middle mouse button will allow you to pan around the 3D viewport. So these are the three most important shortcuts to remember to start navigating around your 3D scene. Again, the Alt and left mouse button will allow you to rotate around your objects in your 3D viewport. The Alt and the right mouse button will allow you to zoom in and out, and the Alt and the middle mouse button will allow you to pan your camera around the viewport. All right, super cool. And sometimes when you start working on objects, you get far away from your object, you can just hit the F key and Maya will go ahead and frame or focus the 3D view around that object. If we now select the cylinder and hit the F key, Maya will go ahead and focus around this cylinder. All right, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial.